This is RileyShop.com, and I film some tutorials and a few vlogs trying to incorporate the two teach you about photography. So today we're going to go through 3 things to get you hopefully using a camera and understanding the most basic fundamental things that you can. Now it's peeing down in Manchester today, so I'm going to get inside. Hey guys, what's up? So yeah, that was me yesterday getting wet through in Manchester trying to shoot little bits of my vlog, which is out a week today on Friday. So yeah, if you've not been here before, I'm Scott, and I basically try and do a photography vlog every other week, and then on the alternative week I throw this type of things out, just little bits of tutorials and maybe some tips and stuff. So I'm not saying I'm the best photographer in the world, but hopefully I've got a bit of knowledge that I can share, particularly for the beginners out there. So that's what we're going to go through today. We're going to go through those 3 main things. If you've got a brand new, maybe entry-level camera, what you really need to know about if you're going to start taking some photos. So if you like this type of stuff, hit that subscribe button below, please. That would really help me out. And hit like, throw a comment in, let me know what you like, what you don't like. But anyway, let's crack on. Hey guys, so we're going to start off with a little thing called a sensor. So every camera in the world has one. It doesn't matter if you're working with a mirrorless or a DSLR or any different type of camera. We all have a sensor because it's a bit of hardware in the camera, tucked away, by the way, in here behind this little screen that I've got on my old D3000, which is about a decade old, by the way. Every camera has one, and it's the bit of hardware that just creates the image. So you know when you're looking through your viewfinder and you're looking at different pictures, effectively it's the bit that will just turn it into an image. That's the easiest way to think of it. You don't have to go into all the techie things. But what we're going to go through today is them 3 settings to how to take a picture, and we're going to go through them. They're called Aperture, ISO and shutter speed. Right guys, so shutter speed we'll start off with today. So on every point, so shutter speed, aperture and ISO, I'll explain, there's normally 2 things with each one. The one how it affects the sensor, and one how it affects like your picture quality and the type of picture you want to get. So we'll start off with shutter speed, and I'm going to throw some pictures up, really simple ones, to try and explain to you what I mean by it all. So with the shutter speed, in terms of the way that it affects the sensor, is you've got all the settings, all the numbers that I've mentioned that I'm going to show you on the screen. The lower the numbers, so if it was 1/50, it just means 50th of a second is the quickness that the shutter will open and close. If it's 1250, that's 1250th a second, and if you go all the way down where it literally says 1, 2, 3, that's seconds. So really slow shutter speed where it opens for ages. Now how that affects the sensor means that the longer it's open, the more light can hit the sensor, so the image should be brighter, which is why you usually use a really low one for things like stars in the sky and all that type of stuff. So that's it, that's really simple. Now moving on more towards how you're going to actually freeze frame that moment, because that's really important. So obviously at the same time, the trade-off with that is if you do a really low shutter speed, because it's a dark moment, if you've got someone running across the screen, they're not going to be, the shutter speed's not fast enough to capture them in a moment in time, so you're going to end up with an image like this, which is just blurred. Because for like, basically in a short, a quick tip, for like people running about doing our usual stuff, I always think about 1/250 normally gets them like in that second, because we don't move much faster than that, but sometimes it can differ. And yeah, that's it with that one really. You've just got to remember that you trade off the faster the shutter speed for faster things like cars and all that stuff, because you want to freeze them in a second, and like I've shown you on here, it's because they're moving across the picture. And the slower for things that are not moving, like still objects, landscape, you can get away with lower ones and actually create like cool effects. So like water, for example, looks quite good on low shutter speed as well. It creates like a movement vibe to the picture. But I figured I'll show you the pictures to explain. So you've always got to trade both off really. But that is it, that's the real basic principles of it. You can play like I've shown you on these videos on my old Nikon, that's explained. You can pick your own shutter speed and going up and down. But that honestly, really keep it simple. That is the basis of what it does. Now, trading off that with aperture, I'm going to show you a similar type of pictures. And aperture is the way of, again, another way of how much light is let into the camera. So aperture is this ring that you can see, which basically just can open and shut, and it can let a certain amount of light hit that sensor. Now, the 2 trade-offs for the way this works is the lower the f-stop number, which is the aperture that we're chatting about, means the more light hits the sensor that we were talking about earlier. But the trade-off for that is it will also give you a really shallow depth of field, so a really narrow point on the picture that could actually be in focus, whereas the rest are blurred. Whereas the higher f-stop, the more space you can see from this picture that you're going to get to be in focus. So think of an image from the side when you're thinking of aperture. Don't think of it from front on, because actually now, if you can see what I've changed and I'm looking at the side, now we can see these points that I'm explaining. So if you were to do a really low aperture, basically what you're doing is, can you see, you're just giving yourself a really narrow point that it could be in focus. So for landscape guys, you need to be really high aperture. Now there is a trade-off for that, so if you want more details on it, check out my other videos and I'll explain it in a lot more detail. But basically, that's going to then increase. Can you see the amount that could be in focus? Whereas if you were doing, let's say, a family portrait in a garden, you want to try and narrow it down as much as you can, because then you focus on your subject and things will be blurry, which basically just directs the eye to the individual rather than all the other stuff that's going on. And that's it. That's hopefully really simple. You just play with it. Really good app if you're really into the techie stuff and you want to know absolutely exactly what it is. It's an app called Photo Pills that I use. It's brilliant. And basically what you can do is you can put your details in. So you're shooting your subject at 1 meter and you're using these settings at this focal length, and it'll tell you if you're using aperture 1.8, if it's half a centimetre in focus or 3 centimetres. It's really interesting. So I'll check that out. So yeah, that is aperture. Also at the same time, you also got to remember that the lower the number also means that your image will be brighter, so you might need to push that shutter speed up on a sunny day to maybe 1/1200, because otherwise if too much light hits the sensor, it's just going to be a white image to a little bit dark image. You've got to get the balance right, but always check out your exposure in that main thing. That's the biggest tip I can give you. So yeah, that is aperture. Now, third rule, ISO. This is a way to simply tell the sensor to be more sensitive to light. Now that sounds daft, but there's a massive trade-off with this. I would always say I always shoot at the lowest ISO I can, all the time, unless I need to. So when I'm shooting weddings and it's really dark and I need to crank it up, I do, that's fine. My camera can handle up to about 1200 before you start to see what we call noise and grain that we don't like, as you can see in these images. But effectively what it does is, it's a way of telling the sensor, oh, you need to be so sensitive to this light, you need to go out and grab it as much as you can. So the higher the numbers on the ISO is basically you saying to the sensor, right, I want you to make sure you grab all that light, and it's literally going out grabbing loads and loads of light. The trade-off is quite simply you get this grain and this noise. And depending on what type of camera, because obviously usually in truth the more expensive ones can handle it a bit better, but there is again loads of different rules for it. You get this grain, you get this noise, and it doesn't look, it's not my style, but it might be for you, so you might actually like that and you might want to crack on and hire it up for a certain look. But that is all that is. That's all that is saying to the sensor. So for that, I save that for moments, yeah, like I said, when I'm shooting a wedding and it's in a dark church and I want to get that moment and I've no choice, you know, the Vicar will let you put flash on and all that stuff. You literally have to crank up as much as you can. I'll lower the shutter speed as low as I can physically possibly get away with. Get the f-stop number where I want it, because remember, you can't just lower the f-stop number because it might be all blurred, so you have to, it's a real judgment call. But yeah, that is it. So that's the really simple one. If I'm going to be honest, if you try to get out there today, guys, to shoot, I just stick to it 100 if you can, and only if you're trying to shoot something in a really dark moment, start cranking it up, or you want to shoot stars and things like that. But we'll get onto that later. We'll do all that stuff. But yeah, they're the 3 more basic things for you. So hopefully now you can get out and shoot. I mean, the key to it all is just managing all of them, getting a really good image. So yeah, get yourself out and get yourself shooting. Right guys, thanks so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it. I am soaking wet through Manchester filming my vlog, which is coming out next Friday. Check it out if you like it. Thanks so much, hope we're helpful, and don't forget to subscribe. See you soon.